subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision.
Voices of Victory.
Leadership.
Voices of Victory.
Workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Di Leone.
Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show. Today is July 4th, Friday, July 4th, 2025. And today we're going to talk about inconsistent behavior, the topic of inconsistent behavior. I don't care if you're dating, I don't care if you're in a relationship, and I certainly don't care if you're in business. Inconsistent behavior is a signal in all three cases. And you know what? Inconsistent behavior is rarely a good behavior. That's what we want to talk about. Let's talk about how this impacts business. Inconsistent behavior conveys and sends out a signal that you are not reliable and that you are not trustworthy. So when clients can't depend on you to deliver on time or to the promised quality that you say you're going to give, and what happens is it sends out that signal and it erodes reliability, it erodes trust. And the impact is that it damages your reputation and it leads to deadlines that are going to be missed and clients that are eventually going to be either lost or dissatisfied. It also signals behaviors that fluctuate. So this points to a lack of clear process as well. Poor time management, insufficient planning. Maybe they're not able to organize themselves very well. Maybe they're not able to manage their time very well. So what does it do as an impact is it literally can impact your business if you're dealing with them, makes them look really inefficient, they're wasting resources, and you know what? It probably stresses team members out, and those team members have to somehow compensate for what's going on, which is really not fair at the end of the day. It is an unclear vision or strategy. That's another thing. With inconsistency, it shows that you can't be committed to a vision. You can't be committed to a strategy. So if a company or a person is always shifting priorities, they're always shifting according to the winds of the world, which a lot of people do. I'm not talking about following trends. I'm talking about sticking to one, sticking to the message, sticking to the goal. Like if you have a corporate message and you've changed it 8 times, there's a problem. You're not asking the right quality questions. It suggests that you don't have a solid direction. That's what it suggests. Now, what's the impact in that is that it creates confusion, employee confusion, partnership confusion, all kinds of misaligned efforts. And you know what? There's an inability to achieve any type of long-term objective, any type. So, that being said, it shows up in the worst way through lack of commitment or any lack of engagement. So guess what? It stems from that lack of any investment in the project, any investment in the company, any investment in that team, or any investment in that relationship. So it totally destroys innovation. It creates a high employee turnover of any kind. And you know what? You're going to lose key clients, okay? It's weak leadership. It's weak follow-through. If they're inconsistent with their decision and communication or support, it creates unstable environments. There are people out there, let me tell you. I've studied leadership for years. There are people out there, and they will say how they're this amazing leader and how they've been involved in leadership and they understand the direction of leadership, but yet their communication is absolute pure trash. I don't call that leadership. Just because you can find a direction and help people with direction, if you can't communicate that, you got work to do. A lot of work. There's skill gaps there. There is literally a skill gap there. And that inconsistency, it comes up like little symptoms, those symptoms of deeper problems like burnout, self-sabotage, lack of upskilling or necessary skills that are actually needed. So yeah, that's what it's all about. Let's talk about relationships. We're going to move right over relationships, and I'm going to get real raw. On this. It shows inconsistent behavior. It shows a lack of commitment and a lack of interest. Because in order for you to care, when a person cares or claims that they actually care, it has to meet effort. What you say and what you do are two different things. They call that incongruous behavior. when what you say and what you do don't match. The care, when you say you care, it has to be met with action. It has to be met with action. So if they don't have a commitment in that, if they don't have an interest in that, they're just being selective. They're either being selective or they're self-sabotaging the relationship. They're self-sabotaging themselves. And you know what? It's a painful signal. If someone's only present or engaged sometimes, they're on their phone when you're out to dinner, it suggests you're not a priority or they're not fully invested. Let me say that again. You're not a priority and they're not fully invested. And if they're not fully invested, well, guess what? It's going to have confusion. It's going to bring feelings of confusion to you, as if you're the problem, as if you did something. Bring up some insecurity, bring up some hurt, question the value of you and the value of that friendship. And there's unreliability. So when people are inconsistent with their behaviors and relationships, they're unreliable. They have trust issues. They don't know how to trust. They live in fear. Now, I don't know about you, but communication is something I personally value. And in order to have self-esteem, you have to have a set of values. Values are what help self-esteem. Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself, but there's a whole slew of values that you stand by that support how you feel about yourself. Like, I value communication, so that's important. That's how I feel about myself, that I value good communicators, right? And I value the communication that I have. So when we're looking at that, it's really difficult to build any type of deep trust, because if the other party is reluctant to share vulnerabilities, or they're in constant anxiety or constant fear or constant self-sabotage or about their next move, next thought, next text, whatever the case may be, you got to ask yourself. Like, you have to literally ask yourself, because just like in business, if someone's words doesn't, if it doesn't match their actions, then their presence is unpredictable. You can't count on that. They're not reliable. They're showing epic fail after epic fail with that. They're unable to share vulnerabilities. They've never had the safety of being vulnerable. I get it. But you got to ask yourself whether or not you want to date a person or be a dentist with communication. If you got to pull teeth to get any form of communication and you value communication, you need to let that relationship go, and fast, because it's an emotional immaturity and instability. It's literally inconsistent emotional responses. Their communication patterns are pure trash, and their availability is even worse. And it all it all comes directly from the lack of self-awareness and the ability to emotionally regulate themselves. It's a roller coaster dynamic. And if your dynamic in this relationship is struggling, then you need to literally reevaluate whether or not that dynamic is worth your time, worth your presence, and worth your energy in this life. Because you know what? If they're communicating and they're having difficulty doing it effective communication, you're going to be left emotionally drained more than once. So yeah, that's how I'm putting it down today. When someone is consistently inconsistent with you, talk about a conundrum, right? It means that other things are prioritized over your connection. It can mean that. Absolutely. Because it's a matter of priority. So the impact is it can leave you feeling undervalued, feeling neglected, feeling resentment. You could start to blame yourself. What did I do? What did I do? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? What did I say wrong? Right? And you fall into self-worth issues. So guess what? There are going to be boundaries. Boundaries are a gateway, not a wall. And testing boundaries is important. You got to watch out, because yes, there are people that have manipulative tendencies. The inconsistency could literally be a deliberate, conscious or unconscious, a deliberate tactic to try to keep you on your toes all the time, unsure of where you stand, giving them more control, because for them it's about control. And guess what? If it comes down to, like, you want to spend time with them and they're guarding their time, it becomes a control issue. And the reason why it becomes a control issue is they could literally fear losing their independence. They don't understand the principle of codependence, independence, and interdependence. They don't understand the concept between the three. Interdependence is when you could be independent, they're independent, and you guys walk by each other side by side, and you actually share each other's lives with each other. So you know what happens? Power imbalance. That's what happens. If you're sensing a power imbalance with somebody and you see it for what it is, like you actually are not blind to the dozens of red flags that are in front of you, then you know what? You need to call them out on it. You need to call them out. And the thing is people won't call them out because they're afraid of losing that connection. But the connection was inconsistent to begin with. So you're going to feel caught up in this power imbalance, like you're constantly fueling this friendship. You're going to get feelings of being played or used or that it's your fault, that you did something wrong. It's understandable to some degree when there's personal issues, like, okay, inconsistency in a relationship or friendship, it can manifest as their internal struggles. Like, obviously they have internal struggles somewhere. It's possible. They could also have a fear of a commitment because they fear losing their independence. And there could be unresolved past trauma. Now, if you want to be a psychologist instead of a boyfriend or girlfriend, you want to pursue that path, knock yourself out. You want to be a communication dentist, knock yourself out. Have fun. Have a great time. Because let me tell you, it is understandable, but it still creates an unhealthy dynamic. It creates an unhealthy dynamic for you. And you know what? They require some kind of professional help to resolve their crap. And it's just up to you. Some people say, oh, well, you're not having compassion. No, I am having compassion. They need to get help, or they need to get support, or they need a partner that's understanding. Which, by the way, you can show them that you're caring and understanding all day long. If they still don't see that value, well, guess what? They're still being inconsistent with that. It's like they're not there for you to fix. And that's so important. To be in a relationship is you're not out to fix your partner. If it's a family member, okay, then I could say maybe things shift into a different direction. And there's some people that say, well, I refuse to give up. Well, fine. You refuse to give up, but how is that impacting your energy? How is that impacting your energy? How is that impacting your emotions? What happens when you give too much? Where are you left at the oasis with no water? Just curious. It's a clear signal that you have to pause, reevaluate, protect your energy, protect your worth, protect your time, whether it's business, whether it's a friend, whether it's a romantic interest. Consistency is the cornerstone of trust, and respect for yourself is saying no. Respect and healthy functioning is consistency. And without it, if you try to build anything that's lasting or genuinely valuable, it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible. And there is a relationship when it comes to this behavior and our self-worth. Because when you consistently are breaking the promises that you make to yourself, you lose your integrity because of that other person, or in regards to that other person. Not going to post blame, but the impact on our self-worth is profound, and it is damaging. It's not about failing to achieve a goal. It's about deeper erosion of self-trust and self-respect. If you're constantly putting up with inconsistent behavior, you're stretching your dignity. And when you start to stretch your dignity, you start to lose it. You start bending your values. And when you start bending your own values, like if you value communication and you keep bending it, it's like, okay, you keep getting these red flags, you keep bending it over and over again. You got to remember, every broken promise, no matter how small, will do a micro betrayal to yourself. So every time you start to give in or bend the rule for the other person, you're going through micro betrayals, small, tiny betrayals, because you can't trust yourself. You have to draw that line. You have to stand in your own authority. This is damaging when you're constantly eroding your self-trust. Self-trust is the bedrock of your own confidence, your own action. If you're constantly stretching your integrity, you're constantly bending your values, you're constantly bending for the other person, all in the name of inconsistency, then you are going to destroy your own self-worth. It decreases self-efficacy. Now, what is that? Self-efficacy literally is the belief in our ability to succeed in situations. And you are eroding your self-efficacy. It's like, I always do X and say X and do X and Y in a relationship, but I never do. I always say that I'm going to lay down the law, but I don't. So when you start bending your own self-worth, you start doubting yourself, you start falling into insecurity, you start falling into these narratives that you're not strong enough, you're not disciplined enough, when all at the end of the day, it comes down to inconsistency of the other person. Total inconsistency. You have to ask yourself the question, do you really want to create more confusion and more self-doubt? Because that inconsistency plays into your self-worth. If someone's running hot and cold all the time, and one day they're intensely engaged and showering you with intention, and other days they're making plans, and They're distant, slow to reply. But here's the kicker. Incongruous behavior is the words don't match the actions. They say they're really into you, but their behavior suggests otherwise. Or they have no interest in trying to build something. And that's it. Like, it doesn't always have to be about interest. I want to make that clear. Like, it doesn't have to be about, oh, are they interested or not interested? What about building something? Building a friendship, having that in mind to build a relationship or build a friendship. Start with friends first. Friendship is literally like, if a good, strong relationship is built on friendship, you could say it's built on bedrock. If you build your relationship on quick, fast intimacy, it will be built on sand. There will be no foundation. If it does survive, there had better be a really strong friendship behind it in order for that to work. Because when their words don't match their actions, they say they're really into you, but their behavior starts showing otherwise, that's going to impact. That's going to send mixed messages that immerses you in confusion. Your brain tries to make sense of the discrepancy because of the lack of congruous behavior. So you know what happens is it leaves people constantly self-questioning themselves. You get a dramatic drop in your self-confidence. It's going to trigger insecurity. It's going to trigger anxiety. It's going to impact your self-worth. It's going to put you in a state of perpetual anxiety, reinforcing that insecurity. You start to feel like you have to prove, earn, and it becomes all performative, that you have to earn their attention or convince them of your worth. No, walk hard, walk fast, do an about face, understand your worth. Don't get into those behaviors. Don't compromise your own needs. Don't compromise your own boundaries. So here's what I want you to remember going forward today. Never chase inconsistent behavior, because it is a powerful act in your own self-worth. Recognize your value. You deserve clarity. You deserve consistency. You deserve respect. You have to be able to set your boundaries. Boundaries are a gate. They are not a wall. You're communicating to yourself, and that's important. And you're also communicating to others what you will and won't tolerate. And you have to be able to stand behind what you won't tolerate. If you change that or shift that, you drop your value. The other person will see that you've bent, and they will try to manipulate that. You've got to protect your energy. You're choosing to invest your time, your emotions, and your emotional connections in something that will reciprocate. It's about building trust. When you act in alignment with your needs, your values, you reinforce your ability to be an advocate for yourself. And you start to follow through on your own internal commitments. The strongest commitments are the ones that you make to yourself. If you break those, you will start to feel low, and you will question the quality of that relationship and whether or not you should remain in it or engage in it further. Consistency is a fundamental indicator of genuine interests. Effort is an expression of care. You reinforce your ability to advocate for yourself and follow through. Because when things are absent, when people are absent, it's a critical red flag. And if you ignore that, it can have a lasting negative effect on your self-worth. And that's all I'm going to say. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Share this with people who actually need it. Have a great day.